Thank you very much, Professor Itatsu, for that very thoughtful introduction. I am really honored and delighted to be with you here at the University of Tokyo this afternoon. I'm especially grateful to my hosts, Professor Woodward and Professor Itatsu, for inviting me, and to Ms. Yuko Mori for her help in arranging my visit. I particularly admire the work that Drs. Woodward and Itatsu are doing around faculty development. This is a field that has been around for 50 years in the United States, and it exists, I think, particularly because at the very top research institutions about 50 years ago, Harvard, Michigan, Stanford, there was a real awareness that the top researchers in their field in the world who are professors have been trained to teach their discipline. But few of them ever received training in how to teach students and in how the processes of learning evolve and change from year to year with new student populations. That is a kind of knowledge and expertise that the Global Faculty Development Program is bringing and providing at the University of Tokyo. It is a critical resource for the world's top researchers to avail themselves of this kind of wisdom and knowledge, because that is not something that was part of your expertise or your training in your discipline. And there's a center now that provides that kind of wisdom and knowledge about research, the latest findings on how students learn and what are the most effective teaching methods. And I had the privilege in my short time here so far of meeting some of your very own faculty here who are conducting that kind of important research. I talked with Professors Charity Nelson and Jim Ellinger, Professors Bregan Dalglish and Isabel Girardot also. And all of these faculty, and perhaps more among you, are doing real investigation and real research on the best possible teaching and learning methods for students at the University of Tokyo. And I feel very strongly, as someone who has worked at some of the top research universities in the US, Harvard, University of Chicago, University of Illinois, that it is our responsibility at the leading research institutions in a nation to be the leaders of research about teaching and learning as well, and also to model that best, most recent knowledge about teaching and learning in the way that we deliver instruction. So I really am very appreciative to be here for those reasons, and especially to Professors Woodward and Itatsu for bringing me and for organizing this wonderful international event to focus precisely on the best learning and teaching methods for university students. Here we go. So this is a sense of the overview of what I plan for our time together this afternoon. And you will notice that I am using a framework of purpose, task, and criteria to outline what it is we'll be doing. And that is, in essence, the transparent framework. So I am modeling the message by trying to use this as a framework for our afternoon. The purpose of my time here this afternoon is for you to have some understanding of how we know that transparent instruction is beneficial for students, and to give you an opportunity to consider applications of that in your own context here at the University of Tokyo. Our tasks, or the way we will go about that together this afternoon: first, I will review some research findings, and next, you will apply them by working together in an active learning exercise, modeling best learning and teaching practices, and looking at some sample assignments that come out of our research. You will look at some of the actual assignments that students in these studies were required to complete. And our criteria, by the end of our time together this afternoon, you will leave with some understanding of that recent research about transparent instruction and its benefits for students' learning. And you will also leave with some strategies that you can start using tomorrow in this new academic year with your own students here. So all I mean by transparency, it may not be the best possible word. I know that it has some political implications that aren't always friendly in the United States and perhaps here as well. But this is a word that we came up with as instructors in part of this study. And all we mean is that when we are teaching, we teach not only the content of the course, the subject matter, but we also talk out loud explicitly with students. We communicate with students about how students are learning and why we manipulate their learning experiences in the ways that we choose to do. I think that this method is gaining attention in a popular way for 3 important reasons. First, this is a very simple and small adjustment to existing teaching practices. The acronym TILT means really just a small change, a tilt, a small movement, right? It is not completely different, right? It is easily adopted by faculty. Second, this kind of instruction it is a small change with a large impact on student success. And third, that impact is larger for underserved students, but significant, statistically significant for all students. And in this way, by helping perhaps the less prepared students more, and it is helping less prepared students a lot, and well-prepared students a little. And it sort of levels the playing field of opportunity for all students to succeed. These are some of the reasons why I think this is a popular movement now in the United States. It further complements universities' existing efforts to promote greater student success. Some of our universities are admitting more diverse and more differently prepared students than ever before, and that creates a real imbalance of the level of student preparation in the classroom. And this is something that teachers can do to help mandated administrative top-down kinds of efforts that involve funding or curricular redesign or intrusive, aggressive advising policies targeted to the students who need them most. This is something that faculty can feel a part of starting tomorrow. You could do something about this tomorrow that would complement any larger university effort. I'm going to talk with you about 2 research studies. I'm just going to review the findings of how do we know this works. The first study is a national United States study done with the Association of American Colleges and Universities. And the second one was done at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And that population is the most diverse student population in the nation, in the United States. The context for these studies, the reason we undertook these studies, we asked a lot of faculty, what are the challenges that your students are experiencing? What are the barriers to your students' success? And I've asked thousands of faculty this question across the United States, and some also in Indonesia and South America, Mexico, Canada, Britain. And these are the barriers that faculty see for their students. They fall into these big categories of a lack of preparation, low motivation, or if not necessarily a laziness among the students, but a fear to ask for help, right? So motivation perhaps, and this may be very common in overachieving students, a kind of motivational problem in terms of seeking more help that might be available to them. Time management is a big problem. Students don't necessarily understand how much time particular types of academic work will take for them to do because they have never done this type of work before. And access to resources, right? So for many of our students in the United States, they will have part-time jobs outside of the class. And I know this is the case for some of your faculty who answered questions about this that I asked you. And for those students, they may not be available to seek the extra help at the times when it's offered. So there's an equity problem in terms of just when and how resources are available. And it was this kind of context that concerned us. These are symptoms of a larger problem in higher education. And that problem is this kind of equity crisis, where we know that more diversely prepared students than ever before are getting to college, a 2-year college or a 4-year university. But once they get there, students do not experience anything like an equitable educational opportunity. We know that first-generation students, first in their family to attend college, low-income students, ethnically underrepresented students. Together, the literature calls these underserved students. These students are half as likely to graduate from college in 4 years as their white and Asian peers in the United States. Half as likely. What is very frightening about that is that that is the new majority student in the United States. First generation, first in family to go to college, low income or ethnically underrepresented. The majority of students coming to college in the United States fit that description. So the way that we are teaching is not sustainable for the new majority population of students if they are less likely to graduate. Right? We must change. And another big reason, I think, for this equity crisis is that there's a gatekeeper mentality about research. We teach to the top level of student, and a gatekeeper approach might sound something like this. And I'll use my field, art history and architectural history, as an example. So a gatekeeper instructor would say, it is my job to teach you about 14th century religious sculpture from Italy. It is your job to figure out how to learn it. If I tell you to use a 14th century religious sculpture as evidence to back up your hypothesis, if you can't figure out how to do that, then you should leave. That person, that's a gatekeeper instructor saying that. That is someone who wants students to leave college. That is an unsustainable approach for the new majority student. And that is part of the reason why we have an equity crisis. And as it so happens, the gatekeeper approach is bad for research productivity. When you weed out the vast diversity of thinkers at the entry level in academia, you produce thinkers who think exactly like the researchers at the top of the pyramid who are struggling to break through research problems. We know from researchers like Malcolm Gladwell, who talks about outlier thinkers, that it is people who think about a research problem from across disciplines, prepared from a different perspective, people who come from differently prepared kinds of backgrounds or from across disciplines are more likely to catalyze a research breakthrough and a solution. And if we eliminate that vast variety of good thinkers at the entry level by encouraging them to leave university, by teaching in a way that we were taught that is not sustainable for the diverse thinkers, then we are destroying our research productivity for the future. We also know that well-prepared novice thinkers do not behave like expert thinkers. We all teach, we are experts, and we teach because we are experts in our field. But many times we forget how it is to think at the level of a novice approaching our discipline for the very first time. Novices don't think in the same way. How would a chemistry student know how to use a chemical reaction that produces a gas as evidence to back up their idea if they had never seen that done in practice before? How many times would someone have to guess at how to do that? A student could spend 100% of their time guessing how instead of actually doing high quality work in the way that we expect, if that's not made clear to them from the beginning. So these are some of the reasons why we have an equity crisis in higher education. And it was for these reasons that we undertook this study about transparent education. What could happen if all students began at the same starting line? If, when a teacher provided an assignment, the why and the how were provided along with the assignment. So all students would have to do is the best high quality work they could do with all of their time. Eliminate all the time that is spent wondering, how should I do this? What does a good example look like? And instead focus all of that time on producing higher quality work. So the first study was done by the Association of American Colleges and Universities in conjunction with TILT Higher Ed, Transparency in Learning and Teaching, and it was funded by TG Philanthropy. And we looked at about 1,300 students from these schools. You will see many different kinds of institutions here, and we chose these on purpose so that everyone looking at our data would find a school something like theirs in this mix. So we have research institutions, we have four-year universities and two-year colleges, we have urban and rural schools, we have Native Americans serving, African Americans serving. We have many different types of Hispanic serving institutions in this mix, so that any institution looking at this research would see something that resembled their own university. And all of this work is published in the 2016 issue of Peer Review, which is on the flip side, citations are on the flip side of your handout, the top page. We had 35 teachers. I should also tell you that the research you're about to see, since I've revealed to you that my field is Italian Renaissance art and architecture, we do have actual education researchers and statisticians here who did the research. So you can trust the findings that they come from qualified folks to do that kind of analysis. And what we did in the first study was we had 35 teachers at 7 institutions. They were all teaching 2 sections of the same course. And we asked them in one section, offer all the assigned work, all of your assignments, required work. Do that in exactly the same way you have always done it. In the other section, please choose 2 assignments, only 2, and transform them, tilt them a little bit to make them more transparent to students. And I'll show you how we asked the instructors to do that. And we asked them to do it only twice because we honestly wanted to see how little could a teacher change and have a significant impact on student success. Here's what happened. I should say this is what we asked the teachers to do. I wanted to just show you this framework. So we asked for teachers to communicate with their students before the students started working. And the communication had to be about 3 things. The purpose. What skills will the student practice by doing this work? And what knowledge will the student gain by doing this work? And how will those skills and that knowledge benefit the student later in life after college? The second thing we wanted teachers and students to communicate about first, before the students did any work, was the task. How should students do the work? What steps should they follow? What steps should they avoid? Now, some of our teachers in the study opposed that particular step, talking about the task. Some of them said, well, wait a minute. I don't want to tell students how to do the work. I want them to figure it out. I don't want to tell them how. That might make it too easy. Now, there are some actual pedagogically reasonable stances for why you would want to do that. Why would you want? Can you imagine a reason why you might want to hide the how, hide the task from the student? Yes?
Creativity or innovation in problem solving?
Innovation in problem solving. And what is your field, sir?
Language teaching.
Language teaching, okay. So if you want students to be creative or innovative, maybe you wouldn't want to tell them how to do it. Some of the engineers in our original study and some of the performing arts teachers had this same objection. I don't want to limit the creativity that the student might bring to the project. That's a reasonable stance. We might want to encourage creativity. So in this particular case, we said, okay, if you do not want to tell students what the task is up front, what the steps are, then please tell the students this. Tell them the purpose of this assignment is for you to struggle and feel confused while you invent your own process to solve the question. Now that sounds almost amusing when I say it out loud, but we think that this is what preserved the students' sense of confidence and their belonging, for them to know, oh, the teacher knows I'm confused, and I'm supposed to feel confused right now because that's the plan. So I do belong here. I shouldn't drop out of college. I should persist and feel confused now because later clarity will come. This is a very important factor in student success, according to other researchers, that sense of confidence and belonging. Researchers who are listed on the back of the top page of your handout include Walton and Cohn in a Science magazine article. And when we talk about what kinds of research matters, like Science magazine is one of the top research journals in the US. And when researchers in that magazine say student sense of confidence leads to their better persistence and higher grades in college, people listen to that. So preserving the student's sense of confidence with a simple tilt to your teaching method is an enormously important factor in promoting student success. The third and last thing we asked for teachers and students to communicate about together was the criteria for success. We asked the teachers to provide multiple examples of real-world work in the discipline, to bring those multiple examples and put them before the students, and then have the students critique that work. They would then see, before they had to do their own work, that in the world there are multiple ways of achieving success, and that some examples of real-world work fall short of the expectation my teacher has for me for my own work. That was a very important piece of the conversation for students. It made them belong and own the criteria for their work in a way that they could not have done without that discussion. That is all we asked the teachers to do. Communicate with students about purpose, task, and criteria before the students start working. And here's what happened. We boosted students' success in 3 very significant ways. First, the students' academic confidence increased. Second, their sense of belonging in college increased. And third, their metacognitive awareness of what skills they were learning and how they acquire learning, how they develop skills, that increased as well. And according to other researchers in Science magazine, or the Hausman and Ye publication also cited on your handout, according to other researchers, these 3 factors are predictors of student success. When these 3 things, when students experience these 3 things, their grades are higher and their persistence in college is longer. So with a very small change, talking about purpose, task, and criteria, we were able to affect 3 factors for student success. Here's what that looked like. Do we have education researchers out in the room? Anybody? Anyone do statistical analysis in education? So I'll just tell you that for all of the students, there was a small but statistically significant difference in terms of their confidence, their sense of belonging, and their metacognitive awareness. We made sure that there was no significant difference in those 2 groups of students, the students in the one section where the assignments were taught the same old way, and the students in the other section where they were given a little bit more transparency with that purpose, task, criteria framework. There was no baseline difference between those students in those 2 groups. And by the end, we saw significant differences for all students, and here is an even larger difference for the underserved students. So we are helping all students some, and the underserved students a whole lot more, creating a level opportunity for all students. The second research study I want to tell you about was at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, which has the most diverse student population in terms of ethnicities in the United States. It is located in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the southwestern United States. It is a very kind of transient community, a low-income community for many of our students, many first-in-family students ever to attend college. Here's what happened with that study. So in this group of students, because of the kind of population it is, our graduation rate was 77% that year. Students who entered in this year, 2015, when we started our study, they graduated at a 77% rate. Now, many of our students are this new incoming majority student, the low-income, first-generation, underrepresented ethnic in terms of their ethnicities. Many of them came from very poor and underfunded, underperforming public high schools. The graduation rate for students like that is low in our country. And our average rate for those students was 77% that year. For the students who received the 2 tweaked assignments, the 2 tilted assignments in one course in their first year, they persisted. Sorry, these are persistence rates, I'm sorry. So our graduation rate is much lower than this. This is the persistence rate from year 1 to year 2. So we lose, on average, 1/4, 25% of our entering class drops out. 85% of them stayed in that test group that received the more transparent assignments in one course in their first year. And if you take out of this 77% group the 800 some students who received that treatment, you are left with a 70% rate of retention or rate of return from first year to second year of the students who did not get the treatment. So that difference from 85% to 70% persistence is a really important difference in terms of the numbers of students who did not drop out of college. We got greedy and we said 2 years later, does this effect still hold? So the researchers cited in your study say in 1 semester and in 1 year, that is the time frame for how long confidence and belonging and metacognition could help. Other researchers had looked at this for the length of 1 year. We looked for 2 years. So now we're looking at the students' 3rd year in university. And for those students who received the 2 transparent assignments in 1 course in their first year, later in their 3rd year, they were still in college at a rate of almost 78%, compared to a rate of 64% for those students who did not get the treatment. That was astonishing to us, that such a small difference, a small change to teaching method could make a big difference for student success. And I can show you, when we ask students about their awareness of particular skills, so here's a skill that we care about a lot in the sciences and in most fields, actually, in the United States, the skill of collaborating effectively with others. Because in the world, that's what we do when we succeed. We collaborate with others to solve problems that our teachers don't even know about. We can't even identify the problems that our students will be solving as leaders in this society 10 years from now. But if the students have the ability to collaborate effectively with others to solve problems, they will succeed. And we can see the difference between the blue bars or the left-hand bars are those students who got the treatment of transparent assignments, and the right-hand red bars are the students who did not get the treatment. And you can see across these ethnic groups, first-generation students, African-American, low-income, Hispanic students, and other not Caucasian students, you can see these really significant differences. In terms of education research, we're now in the world of medium to large size, magnitude of effect. That means how big a difference is it? It's a very big difference. And then here's in humanities and social sciences. That prior slide was sciences. Here's humanities and social sciences, also enormous differences. And then we even asked about writing skills inside of a science course, and we can see how aware students were that they were building up their writing skills even in a science course. So here's all we ask the teachers to do. Purpose, task, criteria. If we talk with students about that before the students do the work, these are the kinds of differences you can expect. So I want to point out to you that on the back of the first page of your handout, you do have lots of citations of different authors. And you might be saying to yourself, purpose, task, criteria, that seems so intuitive. It makes sense. It is simple. I feel like I've heard that before. Maybe I even tried to do that myself. And if you're thinking that, there's a reason for it, which is that there are foundational ideas in the research around teaching and learning that are foundational for this concept of transparency. And in tomorrow afternoon's workshop, if you come back and join us tomorrow morning's workshop, if you come back and join us, I will show you examples of all 6 of these types of findings. But I think that just for now, I'll very quickly touch on this and say that when Dr. Jensen mentioned that there is a kind of disconnect between research about how students learn in terms of the best neuroscience and the best psychology. There's a disconnect between what we know about how students learn and what we do about it when we teach. I've tried to resolve that disconnect by putting, here are the researchers' names, and here's the takeaway idea from their research about what we should do when we assign work to students, right? And we'll walk through some details of that tomorrow. But I just wanted to point out to you that if you are feeling like this is a simple idea that makes sense to you, purpose, task, criteria, it's because you might have absorbed it somehow in past research. This framework doesn't come from nowhere. It is grounded in other research as well as our own. So let's see. Let's look at, so these are the kinds of examples you would see tomorrow, right? I'll just give you a taste. So one of the ideas is you should show students your plan for how you will build up their skills over time. Don't just build up their skills, but show them how you plan to do that. And here's an example of a business course taught by a team of folks at University of Illinois. And there is a national accrediting body that says, here is what students in business schools in the United States should know. Here's what the skills that business students should have in the United States. So these teachers listed those skills across the top of this chart. Here are the skills. Here are the dates of the homework. And they put a mark in a box every time a homework assignment is helping the students practice a particular skill. In one image on one page, students then see, here is how I will acquire all of these skills over time. And we'll look at many more examples like that across disciplines tomorrow afternoon. But for now, I know you would like to get to look at some examples. So I would like you to turn to Sample A, which is on a page numbered page 7 in this handout. I know it is not actually the 7th page, but that's because this is an abbreviation of the handout that you'll get tomorrow morning in the workshop. But I would like for you to read through Sample A. And I'm going to give you 1 silent minute to read through Sample A on page 7. And I want you to find one thing. And when you find that one thing, I want you to just wave. Just give me a quick wave, and I'll know that we're ready to start talking about it. Read through Sample A on page 7, looking for the purpose. And remember, the purpose has 2 pieces up here, the skills the student will practice and the knowledge the student will gain. Does anybody need a copy of the handout to read through Sample A? Okay, so take 1 silent minute and see if you can find the purpose, and when you found it, give me a wave. Is that a wave for you found it or a wave for I need a handout? Okay, thank you. Okay, can you give me a quick wave if you feel like, okay, I think I know where the purpose is. I think I located it. Okay, I saw 3 waves. So you might need to wave a little higher if you have seen it. Okay, now I would like for you to tell the person closest to you, sitting near you, what you think that purpose is. And then listen as they tell you what they think that purpose is. And see if you agree. So this means you're going to talk to each other together for about 1 or 2 minutes. And then I will call you back, and some of you will share, okay, here's what we think the purpose is. Okay, so you have had a minute or 2 to compare with people around you to see if you agree on what you think is the purpose of this assignment. What skills will the student practice and what knowledge will the student gain? So now that you know what some of the people around you think, you might be more willing and more comfortable to share those ideas back with me, because if you were students and I were the teacher, I wouldn't really know that it was your idea you were telling me. It might be someone else you talked to who said that idea, right? So it's much safer for you to just say, oh, I think this is the purpose, because it does, even if you're wrong or right, like you don't take credit for the wrongness or the rightness of your answer. So is there anyone who feels courageous and willing to say, I think this is the purpose of Sample A? How about someone that never said anything yet today? How about that? Anybody? Okay.
I think the purpose of this task is for making students to think about the future career, or like academic career or business career.
Okay. So how many people thought that was the purpose, to learn something about your future career? Just put your hand up if you feel like, yeah, I think that was the purpose. Okay, part of it. Okay. So maybe like half to 2/3 of you think that was part of it. And that, did anybody have a really different idea about what the purpose is? If you didn't raise your hand, then maybe you have a different idea of what the purpose is. So let's hear it. And it's okay if it's not your idea. Maybe the person next to you said that idea. Yes?
I think one of the purposes is to make students don't feel hesitate to ask questions about any areas. You know, you have to contact professional academic, blah, blah, blah.
Good. That's excellent. So maybe the purpose is really to help students be more confident in talking with professionals in the world, right? And both of those are really motivating purposes, right? If the purpose is to find out something about your future career, well, that's a good purpose. I would do that right now to find out the next step in my professional career. That's a motivating purpose. Or if the purpose is to give me more confidence at functioning in the business world, that's a motivating purpose. Now, where did you see that purpose? Where is it located? Just shout it out if you...
6.3.
Part 6.3. And where else did you see it? Anywhere else?
Perhaps this one? Knowledge that will help you make it.
Excellent. Yes, in part 4. Those are the places where this kind of mentions, this is mentioned in the assignment. Now, one way to make that very motivating purpose more transparent to students would be don't bury it in part 6, number 3, and part 4. Put it up high because that's the motivating purpose that would help make students feel like this is worth it. I'm going to do this work really to the best of my ability. Now, we've really talked about the knowledge part of the purpose. But there's also a skills component. What are the skills that a student would need to do to complete this assignment? Could you list some of those skills out loud? And you'd really just like shout them loud and then I'll repeat them because it would be very hard. You would get such a workout of running back and forth to hear these one-word answers. So what are the skills that students must do to complete this assignment? Let's start listing them. Just shout them out and I'll say them again.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking, yes. And we could break that down into smaller skills parts, couldn't we? What other skills? Yes, interviewing skills. Transcribing a recorded, right, yeah, an audio recording. That's an important skill too, hear that you have to have that to do this assignment.
Logical fluency.
Logic, yes, fluency in logic. What else?
Making questions.
Designing interview questions, absolutely. That's a critical communications skill. And this is for a communications course at the introductory level. I'll tell you that much about it. What other skills are involved? Summarizing, yes. That's number 6 on our list. What else? Writing skills, that's huge. And we could break that down also into more components, writing skills, couldn't we? I know some people that might be able to do that, for example. What are some of the smaller skills involved there?
Just organization of the information.
Yes, organizing information. Reflecting, thank you. Making a judgment, right? Yes, courage to ask the questions. That's a critical skill here. And synthesizing and making a judgment. And I'm out of fingers. We're up to like 13 or 14 skills now. So this is an introductory communications course. I am going to give the teaching team the benefit of the doubt. I am going to say these teachers did not intend for the introductory level communications students to simultaneously maintain a metacognitive focus on their own development of 14 skills simultaneously in this introductory level assignment in a first-year course at university. I think the teaching team maybe had 1 or 2 top skills that they really wanted the students to focus on practicing. Because that's maybe a reasonable quantity of skills for the students to think about as they're doing it in an introductory level assignment at the beginning of a term. So here's my question. Can you tell from the way this assignment is written what those top 2 skills are? Is it transcribing? Is it the courage to reach out to professionals? Is it judgment? Is it writing? Is it learning about a career? What are the top 2 skills?
I think it would be transcribing and writing the reflection papers.
Okay, so you think the top 2 skills might be transcribing and writing. Now, and thank you for volunteering that, because that's a really reasonable, good guess. Did anybody else think, oh, I have a totally different top 2 skills that I thought were the top 2? Did anybody else think of a different top? What did you think?
4 and 6, the interview and writing.
Interviewing and writing. Those could equally be the top 2 skills that the teaching team had in mind. Can you tell for sure what the top 2 skills are from the way this is written? I see some heads nodding. You can't. You can't tell for sure. You can't tell for sure. And do you know what? You are the most ridiculously overly educated group to ever look at this first year introductory level assignment. And if you can't tell, have you ever heard of those jokes? I don't know if this is a culturally translatable thing. How many PhDs does it take to screw in a light bulb, right? This is how many PhDs does it take, or how many professors and how many really top students does it take to find the top 2 skills for this assignment? And you can't do it. For sure, you cannot tell. So if you can't tell, what chance do you think the first generation, low income, underprepared, or even excellent, top-rated student has? I just left Las Vegas, so give me odds. What chance do you think the student has if you can't guess the top 2 skills? For sure. What chance does the student have?
10 to 1.
10 to 1. That's pretty good odds. That's 10%. That's higher than I sometimes get when I ask.
100%. Because they wouldn't see it like we see it. That's the problem. They'd be the ones thinking from outside the box.
We don't actually know how they would see it. And that's another really important lesson here. Unless we show them this page and we say to them, what do you think is the purpose? Then they tell us, and we can correct right then, before they go do the work. We can talk about the tasks and the criteria together. And when students have this framework, they can own the ability to do this, not just with your assignment, but with every bit of academic work that they take on. This assignment, sample A as it is written, is not transparent, not accessible, not fair, not equitable, not just, not sustainable for the new incoming majority student. It's really not fair. It's not a workable, sustainable assignment. Sample C is the revised version. I want you to talk with the person next to you for 1 minute about how it's the same and how it is different. Because when you see what are the differences and what are the similarities, you will know exactly how much work it takes to transform an assignment from being completely not transparent to being transparent enough to produce the kinds of data and results you saw in our studies. So take 1 minute to talk with each other about what the differences and similarities are, and then we'll wrap up. Okay, how is it different? What is one way that these teachers made their assignment more transparent, more relevant, more accessible to all of the students? What's one difference?
Due dates?
There are multiple due dates. This happened to almost all of the assignments in our study. Teachers realized, oh, I'm asking students to focus on their development of 10 skills at once. That's too much. I will break it into several assignments. Scaffolding, that's one thing that happened. And that is one thing that I know some of the faculty here are doing. What else? How else is it different? The purpose is clearly mentioned, and it's up near the top. So it's not a mystery to find it. It's up there like a headline or a billboard. How is it similar? The tasks are very much the same. And if you look at assignments now, if you look at each other's assignments, like tomorrow, if you're in the workshop, you will do that. You will notice that most assignments are all about the task. They're a list of steps. And so for many of the teachers, it was really just a question of adding a purpose statement and bringing in some examples so that students would understand, what does this criterion look like in real world work? So the amount of work that it takes to change an assignment from being completely inaccessible and unsustainable and unjust and unfair to being really pretty transparent. It's not perfect, and in tomorrow's workshop we'll talk about where these assignments might have fallen short of perfection, but it's not that much different. It doesn't take that much effort from the faculty member to make an enormous difference that will benefit all students' success in an equitable way. So I want to wrap up just by saying here was again our framework for our time together. The purposes, the tasks, and criteria for what we did. We set out with the goal of you understanding, how do we know transparent instruction is good for students? And I showed you 2 studies for how we know that works. Then I gave you that research, you looked at some examples, and now you're walking away with some understanding of that research, some other citations, a little research summary in your handout, and some strategies that you could use. You could use that top page of the handout and just put it in front of students tomorrow. Because no matter how much you think you have designed a perfectly transparent assignment, if you can answer all these questions on the self-guide on the back page, you still won't have a perfectly transparent assignment for all of the thinkers in your classroom. In order to do that, you need for them to tell you how to make it more transparent. And this is also a way to give students greater capacity of metacognition earlier in their academic career, which is a benefit for all of them as well. So I want to encourage you, if you're interested, to look at more examples on our website. We've got many examples that are free for anyone to use of multiple assignments across the disciplines. And I want to thank you for your hard work this afternoon, for really being alert and participatory and working with one another. Thank you, and please go out there and use transparency to transform these opportunities for your students and give them the opportunity to be better metacognitive learners who can achieve more high-quality work in a shorter frame of time. Thank you very much.